There is a reason some truths never fade. A reason some words outlast empires. A reason a single principle, once understood, can carry you through storms, through lack, through seasons where the world calls it impossible, and still place gold in your hands. And the beauty is, this truth is not new. It is not a modern hack or a trending shortcut. It is 100 years old, and older still. Older than the voices that first put it into print. Older than the ink that carried it into the lives of those who listened. Older than the very currency you now hold in your hands. It is the law behind the law, the root beneath the tree of wealth, the thread that has run unbroken through the stories of kings, merchants, poets, and pioneers. And today, it is running through you. Before we speak its name, pause. Take this moment to quiet the noise in your mind. Set aside the how and the when, and the what if it doesn't work for me. Because those are the thoughts that break the thread. And you are here to weave it whole again. In 100 years, fortunes have risen and fallen. Markets have soared and crashed. New industries have been born, and old ones buried. Yet this one rule stands, the same as it did in the early 1900s, the same as it will in the year 2100. It has been whispered in church pews, written on the margins of books, passed from a mentor to a student in a moment of rare honesty. And yet, it remains invisible to most. Not because it is hidden, but because it is simple. Simple, and yet, the mind craves complication. It says, it can't be this easy, so it keeps searching, keeps scrolling, keeps grasping. But wealth does not answer the frantic hand. It answers the instructed one. This is the first layer of the rule. Wealth is not a distant force you plead with. It is an obedient servant to a mind that knows its place in the order of things. It listens to the tone you set, not the desperation you feel. Let me tell you a story. It's from the journals of a woman who lived through the Great Depression, a time when everything said, hold back, play safe, be careful. And yet, she prospered. Her secret? Every morning, she walked to her kitchen table, placed a single coin in the center, and said out loud, "You multiply in my hands. You have no choice but to increase." She didn't plead, she didn't ask. She spoke as one expecting obedience. Neighbors thought she was mad, until one day she paid off her home in cash. No inheritance, no windfall, just the steady, daily application of the rule you are about to learn. And here's where you must lean in, because this is where most people tune out, thinking, oh, I already know this. But knowing is nothing. Embodied certainty is everything. The rule works like this. What you command with unwavering belief must eventually take form, not because you forced it, but because you became the person to whom it already belonged. Now, I'm going to take you deeper into this rule, not in theory, but in living, breathing, step-by-step demonstration. Stay with me, because the further we go, the more the pieces will click into place. And before we move forward, tell me in the comments right now, if you could speak one wealth command today, what would it be? Write it boldly. Let the world see it. That act alone shifts the energy in your favor. You see, the moment you speak with authority, something changes. not just in the air around you, but in the very fabric of your own being. Your posture shifts, your tone deepens, and without even realizing it, you begin to inhabit the wealth you've been calling in. This is why the 100-year-old wealth rule is not just about words, it's about embodiment. If you speak commands but remain inwardly small, the universe hears the truth behind the sound. It hears the hesitation. It hears the doubt. And it waits, because it will never override the signal you're actually broadcasting. But when your words and your inner stance agree, when they align so fully that no part of you is contradicting the command, that is when the rule moves fast. That is when doors you didn't even know existed begin to open. There's an old saying, a king does not ask permission to sit upon his throne. He sits, and in sitting, he confers the crown upon his head. This is how the wealthy, truly wealthy, operate. They don't run around seeking validation that their wealth is on the way. They speak to their wealth as though it is already standing in the room. They give it instruction, not inquiry. One man who lived by this rule kept a curious habit. He owned a small shipping company in the 1920s. Nothing impressive, just a few boats making deliveries along the coast. But every night, before locking up his office, he would write on a slip of paper, "Tomorrow, you will bring me $10,000 in new contracts." He'd place it in the center of his desk and leave. And somehow, through methods that made no logical sense, the number he wrote always appeared. Sometimes through a deal he'd been chasing for months, sometimes from a completely unrelated source. The point is, the wealth obeyed the command. Why? Because the command was clear, consistent, and unwavering. Here's where you can try this yourself. Not someday, not when you have time, but now. Write one specific financial instruction to your wealth. It could be, by the end of this month, you will bring me $5,000 in new income. Or, this week, you will cover every bill in full, with overflow for savings. And when you write it, don't tuck it away and forget it. Place it somewhere you can see it, somewhere your mind will keep locking onto it, until it becomes as normal as the paint on your walls. The mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly, repeatedly impressed upon it. So if you want this wealth rule to move for you, you must keep impressing it. Daily, relentlessly, lovingly. Remember this: wealth is not resisting you. It's simply following the last clear set of instructions it received. And if those instructions were doubt, fear, or indecision, then that's what it will keep producing. So today, give it a new set. Now, before we move deeper into the mechanics of this rule, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your exact wealth instruction. Make it clear, make it confident, and watch how, by speaking it publicly, you seal it even further into your reality. There's something almost electric that happens the moment you commit your instruction to the world. As if unseen hands take the blueprint and run with it. And here's the thing most people overlook. The universe doesn't just respond to what you say. It responds to the way you hold yourself after you've said it. If you speak the words, and then return to wringing your hands in worry, you've just canceled the order. You've sent a second set of instructions that says, ignore the first. That's why the 100-year-old rule insists on one thing. Once you give the command, you must live as though it has already been carried out. Every gesture, every glance, every tone you use must silently agree, it is done. I once read about a woman in the 1940s who wanted a grand piano, but she had no money for one. Her friends laughed when she began rearranging her tiny apartment to make space for it. She placed a vase of fresh flowers in the empty spot and told visitors, "That's where the piano will stand." For weeks, she acted as though it had already arrived, talking about its rich sound, its polished wood, the songs she would play. And one morning, a delivery truck pulled up. A wealthy acquaintance was moving overseas and had decided to give her his piano as a gift. That's the wealth rule in action. She instructed her reality and then embodied the outcome until the outcome became inevitable. And here's the trap to avoid: the temptation to check on your manifestation. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every morning to see if it's sprouting. You water it. You trust the soil. You know growth is happening even before you see it. So if you've been giving your wealth mixed signals, one moment speaking power, the next broadcasting doubt, it's time to choose. Choose to be the one who speaks once and then moves through the day as if the matter is settled. Right now, as you listen, I invite you to test this. Think of the sum you'd like to receive this month. Say it out loud, even if you whisper it. Then, sit for a moment and feel what it's like to already have it. Notice how your body relaxes. Notice how your mind stops racing. That stillness, that's the signal wealth can finally respond to. And if you're still with me, if you're beginning to feel that shift, now is the perfect moment to subscribe. Because this channel isn't here to sprinkle you with vague positivity. It's here to hand you the exact keys that unlock the vault and teach you how to hold them. Use the piece almost nobody tells you. Wealth does not arrive in chaos. It enters through order, through alignment, through a path that feels already prepared for it. Think of it like this. When a king visits a city, the streets are swept, banners are hung, the gates are flung wide open. There's ceremony, there's preparation. That's exactly how the universe moves when you give a wealth command. It seeks the most prepared, most open, most expectant receiver. And that is where so many people falter. They speak their request once and then keep living as though nothing has changed. The table is still cluttered. The mind is still full of worry. The schedule is still packed with things that drain them. The 100-year-old rule tells us, clear the way. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. If you want more wealth, create space for it to land. I remember the story of a man who'd been struggling for years. One night, he heard a speaker say, "If you want wealth to find you, remove everything in your life that says you don't deserve it." The next morning, he cleaned his tiny apartment, top to bottom. He donated clothes he didn't love, threw away broken things, paid the small debts he could afford to clear, and sat quietly in his one armchair, imagining it was a throne. Within weeks, he received an unexpected inheritance from an uncle he barely knew. Coincidence? Or a direct response to preparation? You already know the answer. And here's where the mystery deepens. Sometimes the moment you prepare, the universe tests you. It sends a delay. It places you in a situation where it looks like nothing is happening. But if you stay in readiness, not just hopeful, but certain, you pass the test and the floodgates open. If you've ever wondered why things feel stuck, ask yourself, have I truly prepared? Would my life, my home? My thoughts tell wealth, you belong here. Or would they whisper, this place isn't ready for you yet? Take a breath right now. Picture your life as a grand hall, freshly polished, candles lit, doors open wide, and see wealth walking toward you, smiling, unstoppable. Because it's not just coming, it's already on its way. If these words are stirring something in you, let me know in the comments what you're preparing for. Not just hoping for, preparing for. Because the moment you declare it, you set your own ceremony in motion. And here is where the ancient rule reveals its quiet brilliance. It does not beg. It does not chase. It does not knock at doors that will not open. It stands in its own authority. It knows. It commands. Florence Scovel Shinn said it this way: you must act as if you have already received. Not tomorrow. Not when the bank balance changes. Now. Because when you step into that state, you shift from asking to owning. Think about it. A queen does not plead for her crown. She wears it. Even before it's placed upon her head, she walks as though it belongs there. That walk is what draws it to her. And this is where most people unknowingly block themselves. They believe wealth will one day make them feel powerful, confident, generous. But the 100-year-old wealth rule flips it. You feel powerful, confident, generous first. And that is what pulls wealth into your orbit. It is a law of resonance. You cannot broadcast lack and expect abundance to hear you. You must speak the language wealth understands: certainty, readiness, gratitude in advance. One woman wrote to me, telling me she began speaking over her life every morning. Wealth walks with me today. It does not pass me by. At first, it felt strange, but she kept at it, brushing her hair, making her coffee, locking her front door, all with those words in her mouth. 3 weeks later, her employer offered her a role she'd never applied for, with double her salary. Was it magic? Was it coincidence? No. It was alignment. It was the universe obeying the vibration she had been consistently sending. This is your reminder. You are not here to live small. You are not here to tiptoe through life, hoping fortune notices you. You are here to step into the open, look wealth in the eye, and say, you will not overlook me. So, speak it. Say it with the conviction of someone who has already received. Let those words become the air you breathe. And if you feel this truth landing in your spirit right now, pause this video for one moment, and in the comments, declare your wealth command. Because the moment you speak it in a public way, you anchor it even deeper in your reality. And here is where the ancient rule reveals its quiet brilliance. It does not beg. It does not chase. It does not knock at doors that will not open. It stands in its own authority. It knows. It commands. Florence Scovel Shinn said it this way: "You must act as if you have already received. Not tomorrow, not when the bank balance changes, now. Because when you step into that state, you shift from asking to owning." Think about it. A queen does not plead for her crown. She wears it. Even before it's placed upon her head, she walks as though it belongs there. That walk is what draws it to her. And this is where most people unknowingly block themselves. They believe wealth will one day make them feel powerful, confident, generous. But the 100-year-old wealth rule flips it. You feel powerful, confident, generous first. And that is what pulls wealth into your orbit. It is a law of resonance. You cannot broadcast lack and expect abundance to hear you. You must speak the language wealth understands: certainty, readiness, gratitude in advance. One woman wrote to me, telling me she began speaking over her life every morning. Wealth walks with me today. It does not pass me by. At first, it felt strange, but she kept at it, brushing her hair, making her coffee, locking her front door, all with those words in her mouth. 3 weeks later, her employer offered her a role she'd never applied for, with double her salary. Was it magic? Was it coincidence? No. It was alignment. It was the universe obeying the vibration she had been consistently sending. This is your reminder. You are not here to live small. You are not here to tiptoe through life, hoping fortune notices you. You are here to step into the open, look wealth in the eye, and say, "You will not overlook me." So, speak it. Say it with the conviction of someone who has already received. Let those words become the air you breathe. And if you feel this truth landing in your spirit right now, pause this video for 1 moment, and in the comments, declare your wealth command. Because the moment you speak it in a public way, you anchor it even deeper in your reality. And here's the part most never see coming. When you truly live by this century-old rule, you stop worrying about when it will happen, because the when no longer matters. You already feel it. You already move as though it's in motion. And the strangest, most beautiful thing begins to happen. The very people, opportunities, and ideas that seemed out of reach start moving toward you. It's as if you've turned on a beacon in the unseen, a golden light only wealth can recognize. And that light says, "Here I am. This is where I'll belong." Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the invisible always precedes the visible. Before a tree breaks through the soil, it exists as a seed, alive, real, inevitable. Your wealth is that seed. And your thoughts, your words, your daily stance are the sun, the water, the soil that draw it upward. But here's where so many miss the mark. They speak the words once or twice, feel a burst of hope, and then return to doubt when nothing changes instantly. They forget that the seed must remain in the ground, tended to, believed in, before it breaks through. Do you understand what this means for you? It means that every time you speak your wealth into existence, even if you cannot yet see it, you are moving it closer to the surface. You are pulling it through unseen laws and divine timing into the visible world. The 100-year-old rule is not passive. It does not wait. It directs. It claims. It takes up space in advance. Say it again, now. Not in a whisper, but in the voice of someone wealth cannot refuse. I live in the certainty of my prosperity. It is already mine. It surrounds me now. And watch how your energy changes when you speak it from that place. Your shoulders square. Your breathing steadies. Your thoughts sharpen. You begin to notice chances and doors you never saw before. That's not coincidence. That is the law responding. That is divine order putting itself to work on your behalf. So I'm asking you, right here, right now, make this your living experiment for the next 21 days. Speak your wealth into the atmosphere every morning. Carry it in your tone. Wrap it around every action you take. And if you are willing to commit to it, write, "I am living the wealth rule," in the comments so we can witness it together. Because the moment you declare it, your 21 days begin, and the countdown to your visible breakthrough is already in motion. Let me tell you a story that begins in the most ordinary way and ends in a way that still sends chills down my spine. Years ago, I knew a woman who had every reason to believe she would never be wealthy. Her upbringing was modest. Her job was just enough to cover rent. And her circle of friends often joked that money just wasn't in the cards for them. And for a long time, she believed that joke was the truth. Until the day she stumbled across a line from Florence Scovel Shinn. It said, "Do not limit the channels by which your good can come to you. Demand it from the universe in the perfect way." She didn't fully understand it, but something in her lit up. For the first time, she wasn't asking for wealth. She was picturing herself ordering it, the way you might order a meal at your favorite restaurant, confident it would arrive. That night, she decided to try something different. Instead of praying for money in the vague, desperate way she always had, she sat on the edge of her bed and said out loud, "Wealth, you know where I live. You know my name. You know my needs. I expect you here now, in the form that serves me best. No begging, no bargaining, just instruction." She went to sleep that night, feeling a strange sense of calm, like the matter was settled. 2 days later, a coworker she barely knew stopped her in the hallway. They had an extra ticket to a seminar on real estate investing and asked if she wanted to come along. Now here's the mystery. That one yes led her to meet the person who would eventually mentor her into buying her first rental property, a property that would triple in value within a few short years. She didn't find the opportunity. It found her, because her words, her energy, and her expectation created a signal the universe could not ignore. I'm telling you this because somewhere right now, an opportunity has your name on it, but it will not approach you if you're still whispering in hope instead of declaring in certainty. Do you see the pattern? The people who receive the most are those who act as though it's already arranged. And before we move to the next secret in this marathon, let me ask you this. Have you noticed what happens when you really believe your wealth is already yours? Your tone changes. Your posture changes. Even your daily decisions change. That shift is your magnetic field expanding. And it's why people who live in that state tend to have wealth meet them halfway. If you're beginning to feel that shift right now, drop a comment saying, "My wealth already knows my address." And let's make it a public decree. Because from this point on, we're not chasing it. We're calling it in with the same authority she did. There is a law, not written in any country's books, but etched into the fabric of creation itself. And once you know it, you'll never look at wealth the same way again. It's the law of immediate command, not eventual command, not someday command, immediate. Florence Scovel Shinn hinted at it when she said, "A demand is made upon substance, and substance responds." What most people miss is that the response time is not tied to the clock on your wall. It's tied to the strength of your knowing. Think about it. When a child says, "I'm hungry," they don't wonder if food exists. They don't ask whether the refrigerator can produce it. They simply expect it to appear because their entire life has proven that it will. That same principle applies to your prosperity. But here's the difference. Most adults unlearn the trust they had as children. They replace it with worry, deadlines, and disbelief. The law of immediate command demands that you return to that state of expectation. Not by pretending, not by trying to believe, but by embodying the reality so deeply that your nervous system stops sending out the signal of lack. And when your energy shifts from wanting to commanding, your results don't just arrive faster. They often arrive in ways that bypass the logical path entirely. I've seen this play out in ways that defy reason. A man declared, "I am now a paid writer," even though he had no clients, no portfolio, and no plan. Within a week, a friend sent him a random email. "My company's looking for freelance writers. Are you interested?" One yes, one meeting, a contract worth more than his old monthly salary. The universe didn't create the opportunity out of thin air. It aligned his awareness to see it, respond to it, and match it instantly. That's the real secret. Opportunities are already circling you, waiting for your signal of readiness. And here's where most people stumble. They confuse command with control. Command is not about forcing outcomes. It's about issuing the order and standing so firmly in your position that the answer must come. Control, on the other hand, tries to script every detail, and that slows everything down. So as you listen right now, I want you to feel the difference in your own body. Command is steady. It's quiet. It's a king or queen in their throne saying, "Bring it forth," and knowing it will be done. In fact, I want you to pause and type in the comments, "I am in command of my wealth." Not to convince yourself, but to let the entire community witness your decree. Because when you state it in public, your own mind hears it differently. And the more you repeat it, the more your field of expectation will sharpen, until the first unexpected opportunity arrives. And you'll know, without a doubt, this law is real. Centuries ago, in a quiet corner of the world, there lived a woman whose name has been lost to most history books, but whose influence ripples through every teaching on wealth, power, and divine alignment. She was not a queen. She was not a merchant. She held no title and commanded no army. And yet, rulers sought her counsel. Merchants traveled for weeks to ask a single question. Families whispered about her behind closed doors, because the ones who left her home often returned wealthy beyond measure. Her neighbors called her the one who speaks, and it is so. They didn't mean it as a metaphor. They meant that when she declared something, reality rearranged itself to match her words. And it happened so often, so precisely, that even the skeptics began to watch her carefully. One account tells of a winter so brutal that the village storehouses were empty. Men were preparing to travel dangerous roads in search of food, certain that famine would strike. She stood in the center of the marketplace, lifted her chin, and said, "By the turning of the moon, our storehouses shall be full again." No one knew what she meant. There were no trade caravans scheduled. The ground was frozen solid. And yet, within days, a traveling group, lost from their original path, arrived with wagons of grain and goods. They traded freely, grateful for shelter, and the storehouses overflowed exactly as she had said. Some called it coincidence, but the ones who watched closely saw her secret. She never spoke a request as if she were unsure. She never begged. She never hedged her words with if or maybe. Every statement was a command disguised in grace. This, more than any ritual, more than any offering, was her true gift. And it's the same gift Florence Scovel Shinn spoke of generations later. The art of directing the universe with clean, uncluttered authority. You might be wondering, how do I step into that level of certainty when my reality doesn't match my desire yet? That's the turning point most people miss. The certainty must come before the proof. It must come when there is no sign, no guarantee, and no evidence. It's at that moment, when your declaration stands on nothing but the strength of your spirit, that the laws of wealth bend toward you. So here is what I want you to speak today. I speak, and my wealth obeys. I command, and it arrives without delay. Type it in the comments. Write it in your journal. Say it aloud in your room until the walls feel charged with it. Because once you anchor that command deep enough, you will understand why strangers once traveled across mountains just to hear 5 words from the woman who could bend reality. And in our next moment together, I'll tell you about the night she gave away her greatest secret to someone who wasn't even looking for wealth, but whose life was transformed forever. It was a night when the wind carried the sound of the sea into every open window. The village was quiet, but her lamp still burned in the corner room. A knock came at her door, not hurried, not fearful, but hesitant, almost reluctant. When she opened it, she found a young woman, shivering, clutching nothing but a tattered shawl. "I don't need wealth," the young woman blurted before she even crossed the threshold. I need an answer." Now, you might expect our mysterious teacher to smile knowingly, to usher her in and offer tea. But she didn't. She simply stepped aside, letting the girl walk into the glow of the oil lamp, and then closed the door without a word. The young woman began to explain. Her family had lost everything, not to famine, not to war, but to a slow erosion of hope. No one in her home dreamed anymore. They worked, they ate, they slept. Life was flat, and she wanted to know, could that be changed? Could the spirit be restored? The teacher listened, and then she said something so strange, so unrelated to the question, that the young woman nearly laughed. "Then you must learn to speak to the invisible as if it were already standing in your room." Confused, the girl asked, "I don't want riches. I just want life to feel full again." And here the teacher leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper, and said the sentence that would follow this girl for the rest of her days. "Fullness is the nature of wealth, and wealth comes when you command it, not when you wait for it." She handed the girl 5 words, not 5 suggestions, not 5 hopes, 5 commands. "Life fills me, wealth follows." The girl repeated them once, twice, 3 times, and something strange happened. The room felt warmer, as if the very air leaned in to listen. That night, the girl walked home, whispering those 5 words into the dark. By the end of the week, her father's long-lost business partner had returned with an offer to rebuild. Within a year, her family's home was not just restored, it was thriving. And when people asked her what had changed, she never told them about the business partner, or the chance meetings, or the sudden opportunities. She only said, "I spoke and life obeyed." Now I'll ask you, what could shift in your life if you stopped treating wealth as a possibility and started treating it as an obedient ally? Because if you understand this truth and dare to speak it, you won't just hope for a better year. You'll command one. And if this is clicking for you right now, subscribe before you leave this moment. Because what's coming next is the exact ancient sequence this teacher used every dawn. The one that made even kings wait outside her door. The teacher's dawn began long before the sun dared to rise. The world outside was still drenched in shadow, and the silence was thick enough to hear your own heartbeat. She would open her shutters, not to see the light, for there was none yet, but to let the sky watch her. Her belief was simple: the universe obeys those who act before the day begins. A clay basin of water sat on her table, not for washing, for reflecting. She would lean over it, seeing her own face shimmer and ripple, and speak, not to herself, but through herself. The first sentence was always the same: "I am already living in my abundance." Then she would call it by name. Not vaguely, not timidly, she would speak to the unseen treasures as if they were obedient servants standing in the room. Gold, you are mine. Opportunities, you are mine. Favors, you are mine. Her hands would move in slow arcs over the water, a sign that she was stirring the energy, sending her command into the current that touches all things. And this is the part no one outside her students ever saw. Because here, in this still hour, she did not ask. She did not plead. She instructed. She believed that the moment between night and dawn was the most obedient moment of the day. The universe, still groggy, still uncommitted to the shape of the hours ahead, would listen to the first clear voice that spoke with certainty. Her voice. And I have to tell you something. When she first taught this to her students, many thought it was ritual for ritual's sake. But then they tried it, and their letters began to arrive. One wrote, "I found an envelope with enough money to pay 3 months' rent, lying in the alley behind my shop." Another said, "I was offered a position I didn't even apply for, with a salary I once thought impossible." They all had different outcomes, but the source was the same, that unwavering dawn command. And now I'm telling you this, not as a pretty story, but as an invitation. Tomorrow, before the sun rises, before the day gets noisy, before your mind gets tangled in what's realistic, speak to your reflection as if you were the only sovereign voice in the universe. Don't just thank the wealth you wish for. Order the wealth you've already claimed. And as you do, remember, wealth doesn't come because it's needed. It comes because it was called. So here's what I want you to do right now. Drop a comment below and declare the first wealth command you'll speak tomorrow at dawn. Let the community feel your certainty. And if you haven't yet, subscribe now, because in the next part, I'm going to reveal the one word the teacher spoke at the very end of her ritual that made the difference between ordinary results and impossible miracles. The final miracle word was never written down, not in her notes, not in the letters to her students, not even whispered in casual conversation. She believed some words were too alive to live on paper, that once written, they became static, frozen, drained of the breath that made them powerful. So she guarded it for years, decades. It was only at the end of her life, when she felt her days shortening, that she gathered a small circle of students in the candlelit room where she had taught for half a century. The windows were closed, the shutters locked, not for secrecy, but for focus. The room smelled faintly of sandalwood and beeswax. Her hands shook as she held the clay basin of water, the same one she had used at dawn for decades. "You know the commands," she said, her voice thin but steady. "You know to speak to your wealth as if it were standing before you. But there is a single word that seals it." She dipped her fingers into the water. The ripples caught the light, flashing gold for an instant. "This word," she continued, "is not a request. It is not a prayer. It is the key in the lock. It tells the universe the command is final." The students leaned forward. Her voice fell to a whisper, but it was the kind of whisper that fills a room, because every ear was desperate not to miss a single breath. The word was complete. She explained, "When you speak your command for wealth, you must end it by saying, 'And so it is, complete.' Not will be, not someday, complete. As if the event has already been etched into the history of your life. And something extraordinary happens when you do. The universe, which is always listening for the signal of finality, moves with speed you didn't think possible. Why? Because you've closed the gap between wanting and having. You've spoken from the having. Her students tested it that very week. One saw an overdue payment arrive the next day. Another received a call about a property she thought she had lost forever. It wasn't coincidence, it was completion. So when you speak to your wealth tomorrow at dawn, when you issue your royal command, end it the way she taught. And so it is, complete. Because in that moment, you aren't hoping. You aren't negotiating. You're signing the decree that your wealth must obey. And if you're ready to practice this, tell me in the comments, what will you declare as complete today? Let the community witness it. And subscribe now, because in our next gathering, I'll share the strange 3-day cycle she used to make sure every command she spoke stayed alive until it delivered. She called it the 3-day seal. Not 3 days of waiting, not 3 days of hoping, 3 days of activating. She believed that every command you speak to the universe must be carried like a flame, and for exactly 72 hours, it must not be allowed to dim, not once. Here's how she broke it down. Day 1 was ignition. The day you spoke the command, clearly, firmly, and with the word that locked it in place, complete. On this day, you did not repeat it endlessly. You said it once, as if sealing a royal decree, and then you acted as though it had already been delivered. She would walk differently that day. She would answer letters differently. She even signed her name with a flourish she called the signature of the wealthy woman I already am. Day 2 was the reinforcement. On this day, she surrounded herself with evidence, any evidence that her command was already in motion. If she had commanded a specific amount of money, she would write that figure on slips of paper and tuck them into her books, her coat pocket, even under her pillow. If she had commanded a home, she would clip photographs of it and place them where her eyes would fall naturally throughout the day. The point was not to wish for it, but to live inside the reality where it was already hers. Day 3 was celebration, before the fact. This was the day she would deliberately make herself feel as if the wealth had already arrived. She would prepare her favorite meal. She would send a thank you letter to God in her journal. She might even buy a small gift for herself, saying, "This is what I give myself when I receive." And here's the secret. On day 3, she would release it completely. No checking, no wondering, no chasing. She let the command stand, untouched, like a perfectly set jewel. Why 3 days? Because she believed that's how long it took for a command to move from the spoken word into the physical plane without being smudged by doubt or pulled back by fear. And the results? She saw payments arrive in hours, inheritances settle in days, businesses turn around overnight. Her students learned, if you keep the command alive for 3 days without breaking its energy, it almost always delivers. So here's my challenge to you. Try it. Speak your wealth into completion today. Spend 3 days carrying it like a flame, and then tell me in the comments what appeared, because it will. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because next time I'll share the 7 physical cues she used to keep her body in the vibration of someone who wealth cannot resist. You won't want to miss this. She called them the 7 signals of wealth, not affirmations, not mantras, but physical cues that tell the universe, I am living in wealth right now. Deliver accordingly. You see, She believed the body could either agree with your command or silently contradict it. And the universe, she warned, listens more to the body than the mouth. Signal 1. The pace of the wealthy. She walked slower. Always slower. Not lazy, not dragging, but with the steady, unhurried pace of someone who knows there's no scarcity of time, no urgency that comes from lack. She said rushing was a poverty posture, and that wealth never chases, it attracts. Signal 2. The gaze. When she looked at someone, whether it was a shopkeeper or a stranger in the street, she met their eyes fully. Not with intimidation, not with demand, but with the quiet assurance of one who belongs anywhere she stands. She said the eyes must silently affirm, I am worthy to be here. Signal 3. The breath. She practiced breathing deeply, expansively, as though every inhale was a vote for abundance. Because fear breathes shallow, scarcity breathes in gasps. But the wealthy, the truly wealthy, breathe as if the whole world belongs to them. And every breath proves it. Signal 4. The hand. Whenever she gave, whether it was a tip, a gift, or a note of encouragement, she placed it in the other person's hand, with her palm open and her fingers relaxed. She said clenched fingers sent the message, I am losing something. But open hands whispered, there's always more. Signal 5. The rest. She took moments throughout the day to pause, even for 5 seconds, and simply rest. She believed constant movement was a silent way of saying, I must keep going or it will all fall apart. Rest was her way of saying, it is already done. Signal 6. The voice. When she spoke, even in ordinary conversation, she allowed for pauses. No rush to fill the silence. She said pauses made her words carry more weight, like a fine meal that is savored, not swallowed whole. Signal 7. The gesture of receipt. And this was her favorite. At least once a day, she would open her arms slightly, even in private, as if embracing a gift. She called it making space in the body for what's coming. She said if you want the universe to fill your hands, it helps to show your hands are ready. Now here's the thing. She didn't just do these 7 signals when she felt wealthy. She did them especially when she didn't. Because these weren't the results of wealth. They were the commands for it. So, what if for the next 7 days, you practiced these signals before you spoke a single word of affirmation? What if your body told the truth of your wealth before your mind caught up? And here's what I want you to do. Pick one of these signals right now and put it in the comments. Claim it as your starting point. Then subscribe, because next time I'll share the one thing she refused to do, no matter how desperate the moment looked, and how it saved her fortune twice. She called it the law of refusal. Not out of arrogance, not out of pride, but because she believed some offers, some opportunities were really traps, dressed as blessings. Twice in her life, she said no to money that almost everyone else would have called a miracle. And twice, that no was the very reason her real fortune arrived. The first time, it was a business opportunity. A wealthy acquaintance wanted her to invest in a partnership. The paperwork was promising. The returns were guaranteed. Her friends whispered, "You'd be foolish not to say yes." But as she read the agreement, she noticed her shoulders tightening, her breath shortening. She said it felt like putting on a jacket that didn't quite fit. You could wear it, but you'd never feel at ease. So she said, "No, thank you." 2 months later, that same partnership collapsed. Every investor lost their money. The second time, it was an advance payment for a project she hadn't yet agreed to do. It was a large sum, enough to cover her rent for months. But the moment she touched the check, she felt drained. Not excited, not energized. She said it was as if the money itself was heavy, carrying the weight of obligation she didn't want. So she returned it. 3 weeks later, she received a commission from a completely different source, one that paid her 3 times the original amount. With joy on both sides, her conclusion was this: if it drains you before you even hold it, it's not your money. She taught that the right money, the divinely aligned money, will never arise attached to fear, unease, or compromise of your inner truth. And she lived by this rule: I only accept what arrives in harmony with my spirit. Here's your moment now. Think about the last time an opportunity came your way. Did you take it out of fear you might not get another? Or did you choose based on the energy it carried? In the comments, write this: I only accept what is mine by divine right, nothing less. Write it. Claim it. Seal it. And if this truth is speaking to you, make sure you're subscribed, because in the next part, I'll reveal the exact 5-minute ritual she used every morning to detect if an opportunity was hers, before she ever said yes or no. She said the ritual was simple, so simple that most people would overlook it, thinking something so small couldn't possibly guide them toward millionaire decisions. But she swore by it, because this 5-minute practice kept her from stepping into the wrong rooms and led her directly into the ones that held her fortune. Here's how she described it. Every morning, before touching her phone, before checking her messages, before letting the noise of the world in, she would sit somewhere quiet, sometimes in her chair by the window, sometimes on the edge of her bed. She would close her eyes and take a slow, deep breath. And with that breath, she imagined herself inside a golden circle of light. She called it the circle of divine agreement. Then she would speak these words aloud: every choice I make today is clear, aligned, and for my highest good. No offer can reach me unless it is mine by divine right. No wealth can pass me by if it has my name on it. And then she would sit in stillness. Not for long, just long enough for her body to feel lighter. She said it was in that space, right between the breath and the next thought, that she could feel her answer about the day ahead. She told me, if an opportunity is coming today and it's mine, I'll feel a quiet, steady warmth in my chest, even before I hear about it. If it's not mine, I'll feel nothing, or a faint heaviness. That's my no. She wasn't guessing. She was listening to the same source that guided her wealth all her life. Now, here's the part people miss. She didn't just do this ritual on big decision days. She did it every single morning. Because the truth is, the little yes you give to the wrong thing can block the bigger yes that was meant for you. Today, try it. And if you feel even the smallest spark from this idea, type in the comments, "I live inside the circle of divine agreement, and nothing outside it can touch me." And if you're not yet subscribed, now's the moment. Because what I'm about to tell you next is the story of the single most unbelievable yes she ever gave. The one that turned a modest bank account into a fortune so large she almost couldn't believe it was hers. She told me it began with a phone call she almost didn't answer. It was late in the afternoon, one of those days where nothing seems to be moving forward. The sky was a little gray, her energy a little low. She was in the middle of making tea when the phone rang. Her first instinct was to let it go to voicemail. But something subtle tugged at her. A warmth, the same steady warmth she always felt inside her circle of divine agreement. She picked it up. On the other end was a man she barely knew, a friend of a friend, who said, "I have a strange feeling I'm supposed to talk to you today. There's an opening at a company that's about to go public, and I think you might be the perfect fit. It's not advertised yet. They're looking quietly. Are you interested?" She said her mind instantly started listing reasons to say no. Too big of a change, too uncertain, too fast. But then she remembered the rule she had lived by for decades. When the yes comes from the light, not the fear, take it. So she said, yes. That one word led to a meeting. That meeting led to a role she almost didn't think she was qualified for. And within 2 years, the company's IPO multiplied her income tenfold. She laughed, telling me, "It didn't make sense to anyone else how I ended up there, but it made perfect sense to God. And when God's sense becomes your sense, wealth has no choice but to follow." She looked me right in the eyes then, and she said something that's been echoing in my head ever since. Wealth isn't chasing the hustler. Wealth is chasing the instructed. You don't get in alignment by accident. You command it. Let me tell you, I felt that in my bones. And if you feel it too, write this in the comments right now. I don't chase, I command. And if you've been quietly watching these videos without subscribing, now is the time to step into this circle with us. Because the next thing I'm about to share is her exact 5-line command that she spoke every night before bed. The one she swore was the true magnet for her fortune. Here's the thing. She didn't just say these 5 lines like she was reading a grocery list. She spoke them as though she was signing a royal decree. Her tone, her pacing, her certainty, it was like she was issuing an unbreakable spiritual law. She told me, if you speak like you're not sure, the universe isn't sure either. So here's exactly what she would say word for word every night before she closed her eyes. Divine supply flows to me now. I am rich in ideas, rich in opportunities, and rich in money. Every door appointed for me is opening. I command every delay to dissolve in grace. I receive my wealth in perfect ways. She said the first night she spoke it, she felt nothing. The second night, she felt a flicker, a slight lightness in her chest. By the third week, she said the room felt different when she spoke it, like the walls were leaning in to listen. And then, things started shifting fast. Old debts resolved themselves in unexpected ways. A client who had ghosted her for a year called back with a large payment. And a property she thought would never sell sold for more than she asked. I asked her why she thought it worked so quickly. She said, "Because most people ask the universe. They beg, they plead, they bargain, and the universe responds in kind, with maybes and somedays. But when you command in alignment with divine law, the universe moves in straight lines." That phrase stayed with me. The universe moves in straight lines. And I'll tell you, I've used this 5-line command myself, and the speed with which small miracles began stacking up was undeniable. So let's do this right now. Wherever you are, whisper these words under your breath as you read them. And if you feel something shift, even slightly, drop a comment saying, "I felt it," so we can anchor that moment together. Because the next story I'm about to share will prove that when you speak with this kind of certainty, doors you didn't even know existed will start swinging wide. She told me about a woman named Evelyn. Evelyn had been through everything you could imagine. Lost her business, lost her marriage, was on the verge of losing her home. She said Evelyn had reached a point where the only thing she had left was her voice, and even that was shaking. One night, Evelyn came across this exact 5-line command. She didn't believe it would work for her, not really, but she said, "I had nothing to lose but the heaviness in my chest." So she whispered it. Her voice cracked on the words, "I receive my wealth in perfect ways." She told me she fell asleep with tears on her pillow, but woke up with a strange calm she hadn't felt in years. That very morning, an old friend she hadn't heard from in a decade called and offered her a freelance project, enough to cover 2 months of mortgage payments. That was the first step. Then, in the weeks that followed, more calls came, more offers, a small inheritance from a relative she didn't even know had passed. She said it was like the universe had been holding a stack of blessings with her name on it. And the moment she spoke those 5 lines with surrender and authority, the delivery trucks started arriving. Evelyn's exact words to me were, "I realized I had been knocking on the wrong doors. When I spoke that command, it was like the right door already had my handprint on it, and it opened." That's why I want you to write these 5 lines somewhere you'll see them every day. Put them in your phone. Stick them on your bathroom mirror. Say them in the shower. Say them while you're making coffee. Say them until they feel like your words, until the vibration of them is woven into your very breath. And if you do this, don't be surprised if your own delivery trucks start showing up in perfect timing, carrying exactly what you asked for and more. Florence Scovel Shinn once hinted at something most people missed. She called it the unspoken seal on any spoken word. She said, "Your command is not finished until your feeling has signed it." Most people speak affirmations like they're reading a grocery list, flat, unmoved, as if they're ordering from a menu they don't believe they can afford. But Florence knew, and Evelyn discovered, that it's not just about saying the right words. It's about saying them with the exact emotional tone you would have if the thing were already here. When Evelyn spoke those 5 lines the second night, she told me she decided to pretend she was already the wealthy woman she dreamed of being. She slowed her breathing. She lifted her chin. She let herself smile in the dark. That night, her words didn't sound like begging. They sounded like a woman speaking her own truth. And that shift was the key. Florence explained that the universe responds to frequency, and your emotions are the tuning fork. If you speak wealth with the vibration of fear, you instruct the universe to confirm more fear. If you speak wealth with the vibration of gratitude and certainty, you instruct the universe to match that. So here's the question I have for you, and I'd love to see your answer in the comments below. If you knew for certain your wealth was already in your possession, what 5 words would you say every day to seal that reality? This is where your mind shifts from hoping to embodying. And once you embody it, everything else rearranges itself to fit your new command. Evelyn didn't know it at the time, but what she had just done was align herself with one of the oldest spiritual money laws in existence. It's hidden in plain sight in the Bible, in the verse that says, "You shall decree a thing, and it shall be established unto you." Most people focus on the decree part. They speak, they command, they affirm, but they forget the second part, the establishment. You see, a decree is just the planting of the seed. The establishment is when that seed takes root in your inner world, so deeply that no storm, no doubt, no delay can dig it up. When Evelyn spoke those 5 words the second night and sealed them with the feeling of already having her wealth, she unknowingly established her decree. It wasn't just a sentence anymore. It was a spiritual order with her signature on it. Florence Scovel Shinn called this speaking from the end. She taught that when you speak as if it's already done, you bypass the realm of time and enter the realm of now, the only place miracles actually happen. Think about it. When you say, "One day I'll be wealthy," you instruct the universe to keep it one day away. But when you say, "I am wealthy now," wealth obeys my call. You instruct the universe to bring it into this very moment. And here's the beautiful part. Once the universe receives that instruction, it's no longer about if. It's only about how. This is why you need to keep speaking. Not because the universe didn't hear you the first time, but because each time you speak with that feeling, you're watering the seed you planted. Evelyn told me later that within 3 weeks of this shift, 3 unexpected money opportunities landed in her lap. One was so improbable, she laughed out loud when she read the email. And that laughter was just confirmation. So I'll ask you again, right now, are you speaking to your wealth like a stranger you're hoping to meet? Or like a trusted friend who always keeps their word? Because in the next moment, I'm going to show you the exact way Florence layered her words so that every command to the universe was unmistakable. Stay with me. You'll want to hear this. Florence's layering technique was deceptively simple, but it was the reason her words never came back void. She would begin with a clear command, not a wish, not a please, not a soft hope whispered into the air, but a statement that carried the weight of authority. Something like, "Wealth, I call you to me now." Then, she would immediately anchor that command in truth. Because a command without a foundation can be shaken by doubt. So she would follow with words that tied her desire to an unshakable law. For example, "Wealth, I call you to me now, for it is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom." Do you see what happens there? It's no longer just her opinion. It's divine law speaking through her. And finally, the part most people overlook, she would seal the command in gratitude. Why? Because gratitude is the energy of already having. It tells the universe, delivery complete. I've received it. So she would close with something like, and I give thanks, for it is already so. Command, anchor, seal. That was the threefold rhythm, and it was unbreakable. Now here's where it gets interesting. Florence also taught that this layering could be repeated like waves. The first wave plants the seed. The second strengthens the root. The third brings the sprout above the soil, where the entire world begins to see the thing you've been speaking in secret. And here's a little secret for you. You can layer anything this way, not just money. Opportunities, healing, love, protection. Every decree you give can ride on this rhythm. In a few moments, I'm going to walk you through a full wealth decree session, exactly as Florence would have done it, word for word, so you can try it tonight. But before we do, tell me in the comments, if you could give one unshakable command to your finances today, what would it be? And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the second part of this teaching. Because the moment you hear it, you'll understand why Florence's students saw miracles on repeat. Let's step into it now. The full wealth decree session, just as Florence Scovel Shinn would have guided it. First, center yourself. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel the chair beneath you, the floor under your feet, and know that right here, right now, you are on holy ground. Because where you stand, God stands. Where you speak, heaven hears. Now, the first wave. Say it with authority, out loud if you can. Wealth, I call you to me now. Don't whisper it. Don't say it like you're unsure. Let it roll from you like a decree carved in stone. Second wave, anchor it in truth. Wealth, I call you to me now, for it is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. Feel the shift. This is not your personal wish list anymore. This is alignment with eternal law, a law that has never failed. Third wave, seal it. And I give thanks, for it is already so. Pause. Let those words rest in the air. Imagine them forming a living blueprint in the unseen, already drawing the right people, the right opportunities, the right figures toward you. Now we repeat, but each time you add more life to the vision. Again, wealth, I call you to me now. But this time, picture it. A golden river flowing straight into your hands, into your bank account, into every area of your life that needs restoration. Anchor it, for it is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. Feel the joy of heaven backing your words. Seal it. And I give thanks, for it is already so. See it, feel it, own it. One more time. But now, imagine it's already happened. You're standing in the life you prayed for. You're looking at the numbers in your account, numbers that once felt impossible. You're living in the home you once tore from a magazine page. You're walking into rooms where people greet you with warmth, not suspicion. Say it again. Wealth, I call you to me now. Anchor it, for it is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. Seal it, and I give thanks, for it is already so. This is your rhythm. This is your spiritual law at work. And I promise you, If you make this a daily practice, you will feel the atmosphere around you begin to change. Not because you are begging, not because you are hoping, but because you are instructing. And heaven loves a soul who knows its own authority. If you're feeling this in your spirit right now, drop a "it is already so" in the comments. And make sure you subscribe, because the next teaching will show you how to keep the flow open so nothing can block what's already on its way. So now that you've issued the call, now that you've spoken wealth into motion, there's something you must know. A door once opened can be closed, not by God, not by the universe, but by the one who called it in, if they let fear slip back in. This is why so many begin to see signs. A check arrives, a business opportunity comes, a debt is suddenly forgiven, and then things go quiet again. It's not that the law failed, it's that the atmosphere shifted. Doubt is the one thief that moves faster than even faith if you let it. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Fear is only inverted faith. It is faith in evil instead of good." So here's your shield. Every time the mind tries to calculate how, you speak, "The how is not my business, the harvest is." Every time you think it's been too long, maybe it's not working, you answer, "My word is still alive. It cannot return void." Every time you look at a bill, or a statement, or a bank balance that doesn't match your decree, you declare, "This is only the shadow. The substance is on its way." And let me tell you something. The more fiercely you guard your inner atmosphere, the faster the outer shifts. You're not just protecting your faith, you're protecting your seed. You planted it when you called wealth by name. You watered it when you anchored it in truth. Now you must guard it until the harvest comes in. This is where mystery works for you, because you never know which moment will be the moment. The message, the phone call, the letter, the unexpected deposit. It can happen while you're pouring coffee, or brushing your teeth, or walking down the street. That's why you walk in divine readiness. You live as if wealth could round the corner at any second, because it can. And if this is stirring something in you right now, type "I'm in divine readiness" in the comments and subscribe, because the next part of this will show you the exact daily alignment ritual that keeps the door open until what you've called in arrives in full. Here's the truth most never grasp. Wealth isn't just summoned once, it's kept in orbit by daily alignment. Think of it like the sun. It's always there, but if the earth tilts too far off course, what was once warm and bright becomes distant and cold. Your words brought wealth into your atmosphere, but your daily alignment keeps it circling closer until it lands. So here's the ritual. Simple, yet electric. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. No excuses. Step 1. Morning command. Before your feet touch the floor, your first words are not about the day's problems, not about the weather, not about the schedule. They are, "I command wealth to walk with me today, to speak my name in rooms I have not entered, to arrange opportunities I cannot yet see." Say it slow. Let each word drop into the silence of your room, like a stone into still water. Feel the ripple. Step 2. Midday reset. Life will try to pull you out of alignment. Traffic, bills, emails, people with low energy, they'll try to tilt your orbit. So at least once in the middle of your day, you pause and you say, "Everything in my life is moving in divine order toward my wealth." This starts the drift. Step 3. Evening seal. Before sleep, you lock it in. You speak as if the day has already fulfilled its purpose. Thank you, wealth, for the calls made on my behalf today. Thank you for the unseen hands arranging my harvest. Thank you for the deposits, spiritual and physical, now on their way. And here's the secret Florence hinted at. You don't just say these words, you inhabit them. You feel the floor under your feet as if it's the polished marble of your dream home. You breathe as if you're in the calm of complete provision. This is how the law works. It responds to the state you hold, not just the phrases you say. Every day you do this, you're not begging the universe. You're training it to see you as the one who already holds what you've asked for. Stay in this, and wealth can't help but obey. And if you're ready to live this ritual starting tonight, tell me in the comments, I live in daily alignment. And subscribe, because in the next flow, I'm going to give you the hidden Florence line most people skip, the one that turns every command into a fulfilled decree. Florence once wrote something that most readers skimmed past, and yet it's the switch that turns every command into a sealed, undeniable decree. She said, "Your word is your wand." But here's what most don't realize. A wand doesn't just point. It transfers power. When you speak a command, you're not just releasing sound. You're releasing a force that must go somewhere, must take shape, must return multiplied. But there's a second half, she implied, and it's where most lose the magic. A command without a seal is like sending a letter with no stamp. It doesn't arrive. That's why Florence always ended her statements with a phrase that anchored them in the divine, under grace in perfect ways. Why? Because this bypasses fear. It removes the pressure of how and when things happen. It locks your desire into a path where harm cannot come. Only good, only the highest form of the answer. So your command becomes, I command wealth to appear in my accounts, under grace in perfect ways. And now, instead of wrestling with timelines or obstacles, you've placed the delivery in the hands of something greater, something that knows the shortest, safest route to you. Every time you use this seal, you're not just speaking to money. You're speaking to the mind that designed it. Try it tonight. Feel the shift. Because once you anchor your words like this, they stop floating in possibility and start moving with purpose. If this resonates, type in the comments, I seal my words under grace. And make sure you subscribe, because next, I'm going to show you the morning sequence that Florence used to set her entire day on a winning track before she even opened her front door. Florence's mornings were not rushed. They were deliberate. And she understood something that most people forget. Your first words in the morning are the architects of your day. The moment your eyes open, you are in what scientists now call a hypnagogic state, that thin veil between sleep and waking, where your subconscious is wide open, unfiltered, ready to accept instruction without resistance. Most people waste this. They check their phone. They think about yesterday's problems. They roll over with worry still clinging to them. But Florence, she commanded her day while it was still clay in her hands. Before she even rose, she would speak words like, "This day is filled with unexpected blessings. Everything I do prospers. All doors fly open for me now." Notice the rhythm. Short, sharp, certain. She wasn't asking for these things. She was announcing them. And by doing so, she planted seeds that the rest of the day had no choice but to grow. This is why so many who practice this say things like, "It's strange, but good news always comes in the morning now." It's not strange, it's law. So here is the Florence morning sequence you can begin tomorrow. 1. Before moving a muscle, take one deep breath and smile, even slightly. This signals to your body that all is well. 2. Speak 3 certainty statements aloud. Examples: I move through this day with ease and power. Prosperity greets me at every turn. I am guided straight to my blessings. 3. End with the seal, under grace in perfect ways. Do this for 21 days and watch the pattern of your mornings change, and then your life. If you've made it this far into the video, it means you're serious about shifting your reality. Drop a comment saying, "My mornings are my gold," and subscribe, because in the next section, we'll go deeper into why the night before is just as critical as the morning itself, and how Florence closed each day so that her dreams were working for her wealth. While she slept, Florence believed that the day does not end when you close your eyes. It carries itself into the night, continuing to weave its patterns in the deep chambers of your mind. She often said, "What you fall asleep with, you wake up with, magnified." And this was not poetic guesswork. Modern neuroscience agrees. Your final thoughts before sleep are replayed and reinforced in the subconscious, like a song looping all night. Most people let the day's debris slip into their dreams, resentments, worries, unfinished arguments, and then they wonder why they wake up heavy, or why the same problems seem to keep meeting them at the door. But Florence, she closed her days intentionally. Her method was what I now call night sealing, a way of locking your mind into a frequency of wealth, ease, and divine order before drifting into that most receptive state of all. It began like this. She would sit quietly in bed, hands open, and replay only the best moments of the day, no matter how small. The smile from a stranger, the warm meal, a bill paid with ease. She magnified these until they glowed. Then she would speak her seal. Everything good multiplies while I rest. My supply is endless. I wake to new blessings, under grace, in perfect ways. By the time she closed her eyes, her subconscious had been fed nothing but proof of abundance. And in that state, it could only grow more of the same. If you try this tonight, don't be surprised if tomorrow morning greets you with an unexpected opportunity, a message, a check, a yes where you once heard no. Before we move to the next section, if this is resonating with you, subscribe now so you never miss these Florence teachings brought into the present. And in the comments, write, "I seal my nights in abundance." Because next, we're going to explore the 5-minute reset Florence used during the day, the technique that allowed her to instantly shift out of fear and back into the vibration of wealth. The truth about this wealth rule is that it never truly sleeps. It is not something you use for a season and then put away like a winter coat. It is alive. It is pulsing. It is always in motion. And once you have aligned yourself with it, you cannot go back to the old way of thinking. You can try. You can return to worry, to overanalyzing, to clutching at coins and checking your accounts 100 times a day. But something inside you will feel wrong, as though you had stepped out of a warm current into freezing water. Because wealth alignment has a current of its own. And once it carries you, it is impossible to forget the feeling of being carried. Pause for a moment and recall the last time you knew, not hoped, not wished, but knew something was going to happen. Perhaps you knew a letter was arriving, or a friend was going to call, or a payment was coming in. That quiet certainty is the exact vibration you must live in with your wealth. And here's where most people sabotage it. They think that vibration is a mood they need to maintain all day. But it's not. It's a decision, a moment of inner agreement, an instruction sent out and then left alone to do its work. Your job is not to constantly replant the seed. Your job is to protect the soil, to shield it from doubt, from frantic digging, from asking the question, is it working, every other minute. Because the moment you ask, you pull up the roots to see if they've grown. And in doing so, you've undone the work you set in motion. So here is the step that will change the speed of your manifestation. Once you speak the wealth instruction, you must act as though it has already been obeyed. How does a person act after receiving the money they asked for? Do they pace the floor? Do they beg for reassurance? Do they complain that it's taking too long? No, they move with quiet confidence. They prepare. They arrange their life as if the funds have already cleared. This is why some receive in days and others take decades. Not because the rule favors one person over another. Not because some are blessed and others are cursed. But because the universe responds to one thing only: certainty. Not frantic prayer. Not desperate repetition. Not imploring. Certainty. If you are feeling this message in your spirit right now, pause this moment and write in the comments, "I live in divine certainty." Let those words be your anchor, and let others see it so they can join you in that frequency. Because when we collectively hold certainty, we create a field so strong, wealth has no choice but to find its way to us. There is something mysterious that happens when your certainty becomes unshakable. The world begins to rearrange itself. Things that were once impossible suddenly fall into place like puzzle pieces you didn't know you had. People appear. Opportunities appear. Doors that were locked for years quietly swing open. And those on the outside will call it luck. They will tell you, "You're so lucky this happened for you." But you will know better. It wasn't luck. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. It was alignment. It was obedience. Not from you to the world, but from the world to your command. You must understand this. The moment you stop negotiating with your vision, the moment you stop diluting your words with doubt, the moment you stop asking how and start declaring when, you move into the seat of authority. The same authority Florence Scovel Shinn wrote about when she said, "You have dominion over every phase of your life, but you must speak it into being." And here's the part most people miss. Dominion is not loud. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to convince anyone. True dominion is quiet, calm, and unmovable. It's the inner tone that says, "This is already mine. This is already done. I will walk as though it's here, because it is." And when you live like that, money doesn't need to be chased. It obeys. The accounts begin to fill. The clients begin to call. The opportunities line up like soldiers awaiting orders. But here's the thing, and I want you to lean in for this. The universe does not obey the hesitant. If your instruction is half-hearted, if your words are laced with "but what if," you've already weakened the command. It's like sending a letter with no address. Where would it even go? So you must speak to your finances the way a king or queen would speak to their court. Not with arrogance, not with fear, but with a calm authority that expects to be honored. This is not about ego. It is about order. The divine order in which you and your provision are already matched. And when you speak from that order, wealth has no choice but to appear. Now, if you're feeling that shift inside you, the one where the hesitation melts and the certainty hardens, say it out loud with me right now. I speak with divine authority, and wealth obeys. And if you want to seal it even deeper, write it in the comments below. Because when you put it in writing, you have anchored it in both the spiritual and the physical realm. There's a secret I've learned over years of studying the ones who seem untouchable by lack. The ones who, no matter the economy, no matter the conditions, no matter the headlines, always seem to rise. They all share this one thing. They treat wealth as an ally, not a stranger. They speak to it as if it were already in the room. And that might sound strange to the untrained mind, but to those who understand divine law, it makes perfect sense. Because everything you want already exists in the unseen. It's not being created for you. It's waiting to be claimed by you. And the claiming is done with your words. This is why Florence Scovel Shinn would say, "Your word is your wand, not your effort, not your hours of labor, not your worry or your stress, your word." But here's where most people break the law without realizing it. They say one thing and live another. They affirm wealth in the morning, but then live the rest of the day like someone waiting for permission to prosper. And the universe, being obedient, responds to the true instruction, the one given not only by your lips, but by your life. That's why I want you to practice this. When you walk into a store, carry yourself as someone who can buy anything in it, even if you don't want anything there. When you check your bank account, see every number there as a seed and speak to it like a gardener speaks to a tree, with certainty of the harvest. And when you face a bill, instead of shrinking, declare, "I bless this payment, for it multiplies as it leaves me." Because when you bless what leaves you, you command what returns to you. This is not about blind optimism. It's about divine transaction. The law says, whatever you send out, returns multiplied. So send out wealth with blessing and watch what comes back. And here's where you bring the power even closer. Declare it publicly. Say it in the comments right now. I bless what leaves me, for it returns multiplied. Your words are not just sound, they are instruction. And today, The universe is listening closely to yours. The most dangerous belief you can carry is this: that your wealth is on the way. Because if it's always on the way, it never actually arrives. That's the trap so many fall into. They speak as though they are waiting on the universe, when in truth, the universe is waiting on them. Florence Scovel Shinn would remind her students, "You must act as if you have already received. Not hope for it, not plead for it, not chase it like a distant shadow, but to live as though the thing is already in your possession." This means when you wake in the morning, you don't open your eyes and scan for what's missing. You wake up in the consciousness of I have, I hold. It is mine now. Because here's the law. If you keep affirming that wealth will come, you're giving the universe a permanent tomorrow to deliver it. And tomorrow never arrives. You have to shift it into the now. When you look at your wallet, you don't see not enough. You see circulation. When you receive even the smallest amount, you don't dismiss it. You announce it. You treat it like a signal flare from heaven that says, yes. The law is working in your favor. You give thanks in real time, and you speak the truth in present tense. Say it with me now and write it down so it imprints on your mind. I live as if it is already here, because it is. That shift from future tense faith to present tense possession is what opens the floodgates. The moment you hold that frequency without letting go, you will see what so many have seen before you. Unexpected deposits, gifts with your name on them, debts erased without explanation, doors opening where there were only walls. But the walls only dissolve for those who speak to them as if they are already gone. So, in the space below, leave your declaration. Let the universe overhear you. And let every reader feel the reality you are living in now. There is a moment, a sacred instant, when the scales tip in your favor. It's not when you see the money. It's not when it hits your account. It's the moment your inner voice stops whispering doubt and starts speaking certainty. For some, that shift happens like lightning. For others, it's a slow, steady build, a daily repetition of truth until the old lies have no place left to hide. Florence Scovel Shinn called it the click. That exact second when the words you've been saying drop from your head into your heart. And once it's in your heart, it becomes law. The outer world has no choice but to match it. Here's what's wild. You've had moments like this before, even if you didn't call them by name. Moments where you just knew something was yours before you had proof. And what happened? The proof showed up. The thing found you. Wealth works the same way, but the mistake most people make is this. They wait for the click to come to them. They sit in uncertainty, hoping certainty will somehow arrive. That's not how the law operates. You build the click. You carve it into your mind through word and repetition until it's more real than your circumstances. So today, speak to your bank account as if it has already caught up to your vision. Not one day, not when the deal closes, not when the check clears. Now, already done. Whisper to it when no one is listening. We are already in overflow. And then every action you take becomes an extension of that truth. Your energy in the store, your posture when you pay a bill, your tone when you give to others. Everything will carry the scent of abundance, and abundance follows that scent home. If you've ever felt the tiniest glimmer of this, click before in the comments so someone else can recognize their own moment when it comes. Because the second you know, the second you truly know, the race is over. The thing is already yours. As a secret most people never hear. Your words don't just describe your reality, they design it. Every statement you make is a blueprint. Every word is a seed. And those seeds, they never vanish. Some take root quickly, sprouting into unexpected checks, chance meetings, or the exact opportunity you've been asking for. Others grow quietly beneath the soil of your awareness, until one day you walk into the room, and there it is, fully formed, waiting for you. But here's the catch. You don't get to plant fear in one sentence and expect abundance to bloom in the next. The soil of your life only knows one master. It will follow the strongest, most consistent command. So if you tell your bank account, money always finds me, but then an hour later sigh and say, I don't know how I'll pay this bill, you've just sent 2 orders to the universe. And the one laced with fear will always arrive faster. Why? Because fear carries more emotion for most people. They feel it more, so it imprints deeper. But the moment you flip this, when your joy, your gratitude, your sense of already having it is the loudest emotion in the room, your wealth has no choice but to rush in. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "No man can fail if some one person sees him successful." So, what happens when you are the one who sees yourself successful? What happens when every word you speak becomes a love letter to the future you're already living? You stop chasing. You start receiving. Speak to your bank account like you would speak to a beloved friend, with warmth, pride, and unshakable belief. Say, we're already winning. The numbers are climbing as we speak. This account is a magnet for divine deposits. And then, watch the external scramble to keep up with your internal decree. Here's something the wealthy understand and the struggling often resist. Your account balance is not the truth. It's the report. It's simply a snapshot of your past orders to the universe. If you don't like what you see, don't argue with the report. Change the command. Speak something so certain, so rich in emotional authority, that the old numbers feel embarrassed to stay the same. Look at that balance, smile at it, and declare, this is the lowest it will ever be again. Say it like you already know the deposits are lined up in the unseen, waiting for their cue. And when doubt whispers, remind yourself, every great fortune began as a sentence spoken in faith. The law is simple. Hold the picture, repeat the command, and refuse to contradict it with worry. Your account is not just a place where numbers live. It is a living altar, a space where your words meet divine law. Every time you log in, you're either blessing it or cursing it. Bless it so consistently that even if it could speak, it might say, This one expects me to grow, and I always do. And remember, there's no such thing as too late for wealth, only too quiet. Speak up, loud enough for the universe to rearrange the flow in your favor. Every deposit that will ever arrive in your life is already circling you in the invisible. It is listening. It is waiting. It is asking, does this one still doubt? Or are they ready to receive? The wealthy understand something most people miss. They never leave the field silent. They flood it with orders. Precise, deliberate, unapologetic orders. When you say, my balance is growing even as I sleep, you're not hoping, you're instructing. When you add, every day, unexpected money finds me, you are not daydreaming. You are setting divine law into motion. The truth is, money has no will of its own. It is a perfect servant, blind to anything except the frequency of your words and feelings. If you tell it to stay away with fear, it will obey. If you call it home with certainty, it will obey. This is not positive thinking. This is spiritual authority. Imagine yourself months from now, opening your account and laughing because the number staring back at you is so far beyond anything you've seen before that the old you wouldn't have believed it. Hold that image, feed that image, and speak to your account as if that day is already here. Because the moment you do, you shorten the distance between your words and their arrival. There is a reason the ancient teachers warned, by your words you are justified, and by your words you are condemned. They were not speaking in riddles. They were giving you the operating manual for your wealth. Your bank account is a mirror. It reflects not just the numbers you have entered, but the beliefs you have entertained, the instructions you have spoken, and the identity you have claimed. If you look at it and feel small, it will shrink to match that feeling. If you look at it and say, you are full, you are growing, you are overflowing with divine supply, then it will rush to match that command instead. You are not pleading for it to change. You are announcing what it already is in the unseen. Do not forget this. The moment you instruct your wealth with full conviction, the universe begins rearranging itself to deliver. People will cross your path. Opportunities will appear where you saw none. Gets will dissolve without drama, and all because you dared to speak as one who owns the outcome already. Every time you check your balance, do not ask, when will it grow? Instead, declare, it is growing now. The proof is inevitable, and the law will obey because it always has. The trap most people fall into is thinking their words are just sounds. They are not. They are blueprints. Every statement you make is a set of architectural plans handed to the master builder of the universe. Say, I'm broke, and the builder lays foundations for scarcity. Say, I am rich in every way, and the builder constructs rooms for abundance to move in. It is that literal. This is why wealth seems to avoid those who complain. It is not avoiding them. Won't, it avoids them. It is obeying them. They said they lack, so the universe made it so. But when you speak to your wealth like a trusted servant, clear in your instructions, firm in your tone, expectant in your spirit, it will execute those orders without hesitation. The accounts will expand. The opportunities will multiply. Stand in moments that feel like luck, but are really the echo of your own words returning to you, full and overflowing. So I ask you, what blueprints are you handing over today? Are they the ones that build walls, or the ones that build doors? Choose wisely, because the house you live in tomorrow is being spoken into existence right now. There is a moment in every wealthy person's story where they stopped speaking like a beggar and started speaking like an owner. They crossed the invisible line between hoping and knowing. Hoping says, maybe if I'm lucky, something will happen. Knowing says, it is already mine. I'm simply walking to meet it. That shift changes everything. Your tone changes, your posture changes, your energy changes, and the world can feel it. When you speak over your bank account, do not sound like you are asking for mercy. Sound like you are declaring your rightful inheritance. Say, money, I command you to grow under grace and in perfect ways. Say, my accounts are never empty. They are always rising. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. It is the sound of someone who understands that the Creator did not design them for lack. Every time you speak in this way, you are pouring the foundation for your next financial miracle. And when you make this your daily language, miracles stop being occasional visitors. They move in permanently. Speak as though your wealth is already standing in front of you, because in the realm where words create, it already is. There is a spiritual law you cannot escape. Whatever you consistently speak to, eventually obeys. If you speak to your money with fear, it will respond with hesitation. If you speak to it with authority, it will respond with acceleration. Picture this. Your bank account is not a silent object. It's an obedient servant, waiting for instructions every single day. The problem is, most people only give it commands in moments of panic. I need more money. Please don't run out. I hope this is enough. But those are not commands. Those are confessions of scarcity. And the law is clear. Whatever you confess, you create. So from this moment on, train yourself to give only prosperous orders. Stand in front of your account, even if the numbers are small, and say, increase is your nature. Multiply now. Say it in the morning, before the day starts. Say it at night, before you sleep. Say it until your mind stops questioning it and starts believing it as fact. Because here is the truth. Money has no choice but to follow the voice of the one who owns it. And when your voice is steady, calm, and charged with faith, wealth will not wander. It will come home. And so, the one who understands the law does not simply hope. They direct. They do not sit by the window waiting for opportunity to knock. They open the door in advance and say, come in. Your place has been prepared. This is the difference between those who drift through life and those who shape it. You can stand still, or you can summon. You can wish, or you can command. And here's the mystery. The universe never punishes you for instructing it. It only punishes hesitation. Hesitation is not neutral. It is a signal, and it says, hold everything back. I am not sure. I am not ready. And everything in your life listens to that message. Pause here and feel this truth. Your finances have ears. Your opportunities have ears. Even the people you have yet to meet are already tuned to the frequency of your voice. What have they been hearing from you? If you have been murmuring doubts, if you have been whispering weakness, then what is arriving is simply obeying the order you sent. This is where you change it. You stand in the middle of your room, or your office, or wherever you are, and you speak like one who has every right to be obeyed. Say, I am prepared for overflow. I am ready for wealth in perfect ways. I command it to arrive under grace, in harmony, and in rapid form. Let it ring in the air. Let it echo back to you, because what you are doing in that moment is not merely talking to yourself. You are addressing the field that governs everything you touch. You will see the shift, not in years, not in months, but almost immediately, because authority carries a different vibration than request. And if this is landing deeply for you, if you know you're going to use this in the next 24 hours, write, I'm ready to command in the comments, so we declare it together. When you speak as one who commands, there is a shift that even your body feels. Your shoulders roll back, your chest opens, your eyes steady. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. And when alignment is present, you don't just speak wealth into being. You become the evidence that wealth is already here. Have you noticed? When you walk into a room with certainty, people move differently around you. They offer you first choice. They wait for your words. They feel something they can't name, and they want to be near it. That something is exactly what money responds to. Not desperation, not hustle, but the calm, electric confidence of someone who has already been chosen. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, "The invisible forces are ever working for the man who is always ready to receive." Read that again in your mind. Then look at your life. Are you ready? Or are you half ready, waiting to see proof before you commit? Because proof is the final stage. It is the echo. It cannot come until you give the command. This is why so many will pray for years, but see no change. Because their words are the words of begging, not building. They're trying to convince life to give them something, instead of instructing life where to deliver it. Here is your shift. Every morning for the next 7 days, speak to your bank account as if it's a trusted partner. Tell it where you expect the numbers to be. Tell it how quickly they should arrive. And do this with the same tone you'd use when reminding a friend of a promise. Warm, certain, and without a trace of doubt. If you're still with me right now, write "I'm in perfect alignment" in the comments, so that you're not just watching this, you're putting yourself on record before the universe. Money is not shy. It does not hide from the worthy. It simply mirrors the energy you hold about it. If you treat it like a fleeting guest, it will visit you briefly and then vanish. If you treat it like a loyal ally, it will find ways to stay and bring friends. Florence Scovel Shinn often spoke about divine substance, the unseen reality from which all visible wealth flows. She wrote that this substance cannot be depleted, cannot be stolen, cannot be lost. And yet, how many people act as if there's a limited supply, as if their gain must mean someone else's loss? This is the thinking that keeps you small. It is like standing at the edge of an infinite ocean and refusing to step in because you fear there won't be enough water. When you step into divine substance, you stop chasing single streams of income. You allow rivers, fountains, and unexpected rain to all flow toward you. You may think you only have one way. Money can come to you right now, a job, a client, a product. But the moment you open your command to multiple doors, the universe begins to surprise you. A refund appears you weren't expecting. An old investment suddenly pays out. A stranger recommends you for something you didn't even apply for. The moment you say, "Money, you are free to come to me," in every channel, in every form, in every perfect way, you remove the bottleneck. And here's the beautiful twist. Money loves to surprise the obedient heart. If you're ready for that surprise, type in the comments, "Every door is open to me now." Because when you speak it, you mark yourself as available for blessings that logic could never schedule. Every door is not just a metaphor. It is a spiritual reality. Doors are moments. Doors are conversations. Doors are thoughts you have while washing the dishes that suddenly become the blueprint for your next breakthrough. When you tell the universe, "Every door is open to me now," you are telling it, "I will not limit you. I will not insist you show up through this job, or that person, or this expected route." You are saying, "I trust you enough to lead me through the unmarked door, the one I didn't even know existed, until my hand was already on the handle." Think about this. If you could only receive what you already knew about, you would be trapped in the limits of your past knowledge. But wealth comes from the future, from the unseen. It is not bound to your memory. It is bound to your openness. That's why Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, "Do not insist upon the way your good is to come. Your supply is limitless and comes in perfect ways." The people who get this right stop worrying about where it's coming from and start aligning with who they are while waiting. You cannot command with one breath and then contradict with the next. You cannot say, "I am wealthy," and then mumble, "I hope it works," under your breath. The door is not opened by a single declaration. It stays open because you hold the frequency, minute by minute, day by day. So, what frequency are you holding right now? If you feel even a trace of doubt, pause and replace it with this: "My good cannot be delayed. It is already mine. I walk through every open door now." Say it until you feel it, and watch how quickly the keys appear. There is something extraordinary that happens when you stop chasing money and start inviting it. Not as a beggar at the gate, but as an honored guest in your home. Think about it. When you invite someone you truly care for, you prepare a place for them. You set the table. You open the windows so light can pour in. You greet them at the door with certainty because you know they are coming. This is exactly how wealth wants to be welcomed. When you speak to your bank account, you are not just looking at numbers on a screen. You are speaking to an energetic partner, a living current that responds to your tone, your attitude, your certainty. And if you want this partner to expand, you do not criticize it for being small. You bless it for already being faithful. Say it softly at first if you must. "My account is blessed. My account is always growing. My account is my proof that I am in the flow of divine abundance. And then say it as if every angel in heaven is listening, because they are. The unseen world does not respond to panic. It responds to praise. It responds to the calm voice of someone who has already seen the outcome in their mind and knows it is already done. Every great manifestation story has one detail in common. At some point, the person decided, not wished, not hoped, not pleaded. They decided. And in that decision, 1,000 unseen doors swung open. So decide now. Make it final. Speak to your wealth as if it already has the chair pulled out for it at your table. Because it does. Picture this, a bank vault, but not a cold, silent steel chamber. No. This one is filled with light, golden light, stretching into every corner, wrapping around stacks of bills and rows of gold bars like the warm arms of the sun. This vault is yours, not in some far-off dream, but in the mind that commands your reality. When you speak to your bank account, you are speaking to this vault. The numbers you see on the screen are simply the shadow of what's already waiting for you inside. And here's the key. The vault door opens only when you speak the words that match the vibration of plenty. Not, I hope it's there, but thank you. It is already mine. Florence Scovel Shinn called this speaking the word. The word is not just speech. It is the announcement of an already completed fact. When you speak to your money with this level of certainty, you're not asking for permission. You're declaring possession. It's like a king walking into his own treasure room. He doesn't knock. He doesn't ask the guards if it's all right. He simply steps in because it belongs to him. That's the energy you carry now. Say it aloud. My vault is open. Wealth flows to me in perfect ways. I walk in abundance. I sit in abundance. I rest in abundance. And don't rush those words. Let them echo. Let them fill every inner hallway of your mind until you feel the weight of the gold in your hands. Because the moment you feel it, it's already moving toward you. And now, we arrive at the moment that ties every word together. Every affirmation you've spoken, every vision you've held, every quiet, unshakable moment of belief, they have been building something you can't yet see in full. Think of it like an unseen bridge. Each declaration placed another plank. Each thank you to the universe secured another beam. And now, that bridge is complete. On the other side, your answered prayers, your overflowing accounts, your freedom. You don't need to run to it. You don't need to chase it. You simply walk, calm, certain, steady, because wealth walks to meet you halfway. So from this day forward, when you open your bank app, you're not checking numbers. You're greeting friends. You're saying to your balance, I'm so glad you're here, and I know you're about to bring even more company. That's how you speak to money. That's how you instruct prosperity. That's how you keep the vault door open for as long as you live. And if this message found you today, it is not by accident. It's your sign to stop doubting and start declaring. Speak the word, hold the vision, walk the bridge. Your wealth has already been written. Now, go and collect it.